All right, guys. Welcome to the Different Animals Podcast. This is episode 9. This is your boy Tyler.
And I'm Ever Castro.
And today, the few things we're going to hit on is we're going to talk about the best A plus in every sport, and we'll go more into detail on what that means. We're going to talk about what we've been watching recently. Might touch on Patrick Mahomes signing a big deal. I think that happened today at the time of recording. And at the end of this, we're gonna talk about crazy sports stats that are nuts every time you hear them, no matter how many times you hear them. And then we'll probably play you an outro like we normally would. But then we're gonna talk about The Last of Us 2 at the end there, so that way if you're averse to spoilers on that, you don't have to hear them. But first. All right, so we're gonna talk about the best A plus in every sport, and that was my teaser on our last quote where I said D's motherfucker D's Rosie Perez, because the line before that, while that line is clearly talking about her breast size, the line before that he's talking about his test grades. So I'm going with the A plus on this, which is to say that my dad gave me a very good, or made a point that I think was a good one, which is that he said he thinks Michael Jordan is still the number one basketball player, but that he thinks LeBron having an A plus game is better than Michael Jordan having an A plus game. And so he just thinks that Michael Jordan gave you, at least an A or an A minus more often than LeBron does. So that made me think about what are the best A plus games in every sport? So like an argument for Emmitt Smith versus Barry Sanders is that like Emmitt Smith holds the rushing record and that he was more consistent, but everyone knows that an A plus game at a Barry Sanders is blowing away an Emmitt Smith A plus.
Right.
So what we're going to talk about specifically today, because this is going to be something that I think we're going to try and stretch out over a few episodes, is we're going to just touch on specific sports. So we're going to talk about the best A plus today in football, and specifically quarterback, running back, and wide receiver.
Okay. So do you have yours? Do you just sort of off the cuff, or like do you have any that sort of jumped to mind immediately?
So off the cuff, and some of this is like just clearly recency bias, because I think too much of your best A plus like depends on like when you've seen someone bawling the fuck out and how amazed you've been. You know what I mean? Like that kind of plays into A plus, whereas like the consistency could get you on the stats. You know what I mean? Like I can read the stats and see the consistency, but like the electricness, you know what I mean? The electricness, bro. I don't even think that's a fucking word. The electricity, like, just the overall feel of someone like going off is kind of like you have to be there for it. So let's see. So wide receiver, I think I have to go Randy Moss. Randy Moss is just such an intense, like, one of my favorite clips I've seen is, I think it's D'Angelo Hall was a corner for the Redskins, I think.
Yep.
And he was like a good corner. And he lines up against fucking Randy Moss, and he's talking about a clip while it's playing. They're interviewing him, and he was like, I was talking cash shit, bro. He was like, I was talking so much shit. Like, I'm gonna lock this dude down. And he was like, I knew he was gonna try and burn me. And he was like, so I played it doing that, and he was like, it happened so fast. And he's like, he got me. And then I turned and I saw him put the fucking hand up, like asking for it, streaking down the sideline. And he's like, you just snagged it on me and scored. And he was like, I was talking so much shit, and I stopped talking shit after that. And I just love the idea that you were like, I know exactly what you're gonna do. I'm stopping this shit. And he does what you thought, and he still just fucking dusted you anyways. Like, So like, I think Randy Moss is my A+ wide receiver. Who do you have?
I think my A plus would have to be Calvin Johnson. I'm gonna go with Calvin Johnson because
Megatron.
yeah, Megatron. Because I feel like he is borderline Hall of Famer. I feel like he'll get in just off of reputation mostly. Like his stats are great, but I don't think he's top 5 in any of them. It was kind of he'll get in sort of on a I was gonna say on a Barry Sanders level, but I think Barry is top 5 in rushing.
Yeah.
So I think he'll be somebody who sort of gets in kind of, how can I say, like a Tracy McGrady entry, where it's like, dude, this guy was putting up so many crazy stats, and maybe he had the Pro Bowls, but he didn't have the ring, or even the stats to finish the to finish his career, like at the end of his career. So like, of course we have his best game ever, which is against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
In 2013, he had 329 yards, 1 touchdown, which is kind of insane, and 14 catches. 329, dude. Like that's insane. Let me see. We got some other ones here. He broke Jerry Rice's single season record. I think he had like 1900, and he broke that record off of a 200 receiving yard game. And then on Thanksgiving 2014, 11 catches, 146, 2 touchdowns. So I think he was somebody who came on the scene, killed it. Somebody similar to Josh Gordon, and then he retired, of course, because he plays for the Lions, and that's sort of what you do when you play for the Lions. But yeah, I think he's somebody who, I think if he would have stayed, he probably would have done something similar to Larry Fitzgerald, where it's indisputable that he's a Hall of Famer just because he keeps putting up, the same sort of level of stats.
Right.
But yeah, I would have to say he's my A+ guy, like the guy who you were like, if like who else, who's like the one wide receiver, like if I was told this guy's gonna, he's gonna be single covered and your quarterback's gonna be, I don't know, Peyton Manning, like, who would you want? I would want Calvin Johnson every single day of the week.
Yeah, I think that's a good choice. I think it's a different monster. Like I think Randy Moss is like more explosive, but I do think Calvin Johnson is like a guarantee. You know what I mean? Like Calvin Johnson's like your ultimate, like, fuck it, just toss it. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like,
right. And he did. And I know he got Stafford in 2008, but he was hurt here and there. But he had to deal. He played with guys like, like Sean Hill, I think, and sort of not great quarterbacks all the time, and he put up those stats. And I feel like Josh Gordon was probably his second coming. And, the marijuana stuff sort of prevented him from becoming the next Calvin Johnson.
Shout out Stephen A. Smith.
Yeah. But I think Calvin, he's my A+ guy.
Okay. All right. So, I'll let you take the lead on running back. Who do you think is your A+ running back?
A+ running back.
I have a dark horse, and if you take it, I'm going to be so mad. So continue.
I would say, I'm going to try and keep it recent just so that people know. But it's recent, sort of, but still kind of a couple years ago. I would say Chris Johnson.
Okay.
Chris Johnson, running back, played for the Titans. He had a 2,000-yard running season. Yeah, East Carolina. He always had that like twitchy. It was like he was cutting through time, and he was so good that one season. He was so good that one season. 2,000 yards. Like I think only him and 6 or 7 other guys have done it. And so if you had to tell me, this running back's gonna get, he's gonna get his today, I would say give me Chris Johnson. I know he's another guy like Calvin Johnson who like came in, burned bright for 2 or 3 seasons, and then he kind of retired soon after. Although I think his wasn't so much of his choice, or it wasn't his choosing as much as Calvin's was. But I think both are in the same sort of, late 2000s, early 2010s sort of football.
Right. All right. So mine is a little earlier than that, but it's still recent. And shout out to Sean Johnson. And I don't care if I say his last name. I think he'll be fine with it because this isn't even a story about him. He's just a fan. Is that I think mine's going to go to LaDainian Tomlinson. Because LaDainian Tomlinson in fucking 06, his MVP year, was such a fucking monster, bro. He was impossible to bring down. Like, and I don't mean that in a, like, powering through tackles way. I mean, like, you couldn't get a fucking hand on him. Like,
dude, he outscored Oakland as a team that year.
That's fucking nuts. So I looked it up. He had 1,800 yards that season, his MVP season in 06. He had 28 rushing touchdowns,
Jesus.
and he averaged 114 yards a game.
Jesus.
He was putting in fucking work.
Like, I'm trying to find his 2006 stats because, like
his yards from scrimmage were 2,323 over the course of the year. So that includes his receiving yards. Yeah, he was averaging, like I said, 113 yards a game. He was averaging 5 yards a run. Bro, just run it twice. That's a first down, baby. Don't even need to throw the ball. Holy shit.
Let me see if I can find
the 85-yard run that year. He's balling.
Yeah. And it sucks that he had, and then that team went 14-2, and then they get upset by the Patriots at home, because I think that was, that was a pretty good team. And I think Phillip Rivers that was his second or third year in the league. And then they never quite got him back to that. I mean, the next year he had 1,400 yards, but then after that it was 1,100, and then after that it was 700. So he never quite got back up to 1,800.
Right.
But
even before that, though, I mean, like, if you look before the 1,800, he was like 14, 13, 16, 17, 12. Like, he was going he was going off consistently.
Yeah, but I think still, like, if you look at the rushes, I think he had 348 that season. Like, that's a lot. Like, that 348.
That's some fucking DeMarco Murray shit right
Exactly,
there. The year before was 339. The year before was 339.
372 in his second year. Woo! Jesus. But anyway, I agree. I actually did think about LT, but I was like, let me think about something that's a little bit different. Because I think LT, in my mind, I'm thinking about these in sort of like guys that you like put in and they'll give you great ones, but maybe they didn't last that long. Or maybe they're like, because I feel like you got some A's. Like I think LT is a little bit different because it's like, up until that point, he was like very like A minus guy, and then in 2006, he's just a different level. He's just a different beast.
I think the reason why he still fits for me though is that, like, for some reason, like I don't know, like I feel like he doesn't get mentioned enough in that conversation.
Right.
Like everyone goes to like Barry Sanders, Walter Payton, fucking Herschel Walker. You know what I mean? Like and like he never Adrian Peterson. You know what I mean? Like he doesn't. He never really gets the respect, I think, even though he was totally there.
Yeah, that should have been his season in 2006.
Yeah.
Like, that sucks, yeah.
If he'd have won one, I think it would have had to have been a little different sounding. Yeah. I don't think it's as big for a running back as it is for a quarterback, but I think it would have helped. And for what it's worth, he's in the Hall of Fame, so obviously he did get some credit.
Right. But I know what you mean. If people give you their top fives, he should be on most people's, but he's probably not.
Right. All right, so now I got to take the lead on quarterback, and I'm trying to think. Quarterback's hard because I feel like the answer is still Tom Brady. Like I feel like a solid Tom Brady is still dominating. I think you know what I mean. Like I think he's like consistent and also A+. But if I'm having to choose someone other than Tom Brady, I'm gonna go your best A+. So this is hard because, like, I think I want to say Vic. I think Vic at his A+, like, I know he wasn't accurate, but at a certain point, like, if you're opening things up that much, especially at that time, like now, Lamar Jackson is a great runner, and he might be better than Vic, but the thing is that defenses are now more flexible in that they understand this is a thing that, they're like 5 or 6 good quarterbacks that can do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like Dak can run, Cam can run, Patrick Mahomes can run a little bit. You know what I mean? Like Lamar Jackson can run. So I think defenses are at least prepared for the idea. But at the time, Vic was like, no, I'm coming out here and I'm doing it. Like, I'm out here. I am running. You're not prepared. And that's all there is to it. And then on top of that, having a fucking cannon. You know what I mean? I know he's not super accurate, but that man can throw it deep.
Right. No, yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. I mean, I mean, he anytime you mention Vic, you always got to mention Madden 04.
Yeah, which was the most broke shit ever.
I mean, I remember playing it. You would hike the ball. You would scramble.
Run 20 yards back.
Yeah, you would scramble to the right. If he was left-handed, right? So he's scrambling to the right against his arm. He would throw it over his right shoulder. You would be facing away from the receiver and just launch it 80 yards to the left side of the field.
Yeah, and then the receiver would just like one hand snag it. Like,
Yep. But I think my quarterback would be I'm gonna have to go with Mr. Jesus himself, Kurt Warner. I
Okay,
think
okay.
he was somebody
Bagging
who
groceries. Hey, shout out to last episode, grocery bag, dude. We put this shit together so immaculate.
it comes back. It's called poetry rhymes. So I always liked Kurt Warner from his Cardinals teams because I didn't really watch football when he played for the Rams.
Right.
But just looking at his stats, I mean, in a 3-year span from 1999 to 2001, here's what he had. So 4,300 yards and 41 touchdowns. Then the next year they had a little bit of a dip. I think he was hurt for some of that season. 3,400 yards, 21 touchdowns. But then in 2001, which I think is when he was MVP, 4,800 yards and 36 touchdowns.
Jesus Christ.
And then he kind of dips again because I think he bounces around from team to team. Injuries kind of cost him. But then he finally finds his way back in Arizona. And he beats out Matt Leinart, who I think was the number 1 pick, I think in 2004 or 2005, and takes him to the Super Bowl in 2008. Now, in that 2008 season, he had 4,500 yards and 30 touchdowns at age 37.
Jesus.
So, I remember that team. I mean, that team was amazing. And so, if there was 2008, the Cardinals.
2008, okay.
Yeah, so they played the Steelers, and then they lost. That was at Santonio Holmes back of the end zone tippy toe catch. But yeah, so if I had my one guy who like healthy, like on the field, like have to fucking win a game for me, I'm gonna go with Kurt Warner.
All right, so just our lineups. All right, you have Kurt Warner at QB, Calvin Johnson at wide receiver, and Chris Johnson at running back.
Mm-hmm.
Solid trio.
I was gonna say that sounds like a 2009 fantasy football draft.
Where like you and only 2 other people are drafting.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. But like actually looking at that doesn't sound too bad. I need to look at Calvin's 2009 season, but Kurt Warner's 2009 season was 3,700 yards and 26 touchdowns, and then Chris Johnson had 2,000 yards that season. So
yeah, so you're looking pretty good there. And then mine was Vic at QB, Randy Moss. Jesus. All right, Vic at QB, Randy Moss at wide receiver, and at running back LaDainian Thompson.
Not bad. Not bad.
Got some burners. We got some speed.
You got some 2004 magic there.
All right, so those are both solid. I would take those in a heartbeat, and I think anyone would.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So, especially for one game, like if aliens, like the classic like NBA or like a basketball thing is like if aliens came down to Earth, and I think that's just because Space Jam was a thing. But like if aliens came down to Earth, like and told you had to win one basketball game to save mankind, like you choose at each position. For a football scenario where that's happening, I think those are both solid, 3 people where you're like, I think we might have a chance.
Yeah, I'll put my chances on Vic.
Yeah,
to pull this out. But speaking of one ridiculously armed video game cover quarterback who plays for a team that wears red, Patrick Mahomes signed an extension recently. I think we have reports saying that it's a 10-year extension. And it can be worth up to $503 million. $500 million over the next 10 years.
Right. And that might still be underpaid when you compare it to baseball contracts.
Oh my gosh. I mean, Mahomes is going to be, he's the guy. And I'm interested to see sort of where Lamar Jackson goes next season. Because it would be interesting to have them two and maybe Deshaun Watson as well in terms of guys who can carry the league for the next 10 to 15 years. Because, we had Brady and Manning. Those guys sort of carried it. Roethlisberger as well. But then they've sort of,
in between then, like as they dipped, you had, like, Rodgers holding the fort. You know what I mean?
Rodgers. But he was drafted in 05. So, like, we got Rodgers, Roethlisberger, Breeze.
Right.
I think those guys, but between like 2007 to 2015, like what guys are left?
Right.
Like Russell Wilson. But
yeah,
that's
Russell Wilson.
About it. Russell Wilson in 2012. But every other quarterback drafted in that space is sort of either gone or sort of already heading out, and they didn't really make a legend level splash like Manning or a Brady.
Right. You're not gonna say anything about me saying Eli Manning? You're just gonna let that one?
Well, that's 2004. That's outside of the window.
Oh yeah, fair enough. But 2 Super Bowls over Tom Brady, so I mean, obviously he's a GOAT and first ballot Hall of Famer. Cool. I just want to shoot myself now. Um, yeah, I mean, Patrick Mahomes, 10 years. The, every time I see something like that, I'm like, good for you, secured the bag, right?
Hmm.
But then I'm like, well, you put a lot of fucking faith in that organization. You know what I mean? Like, you are putting a lot of faith in the Chiefs to be able to, like, not just waste fucking 6 years of your career. You
Hmm.
know? Like,
Yeah, I mean, it's so interesting because every contract, every NFL contract is sort of shaped in a way so that the team can get out of it easily, or right, a little bit
right.
easier than the player can, right? So I'm interested. I'm interested to see sort of how much leeway or how much leverage he had, with this MVP and then Super Bowl MVP.
Right.
But I mean, he's what 25, I think. So if you lock it down, I mean, like that's, I mean, it makes perfect sense. But these things never work out where it's like, oh, he finished his 10-year contract and it worked out perfectly. It's always,
There's always a messy ending. You know
yeah,
what I mean?
it's
Like,
always like they
either
let him go
the
after
Chiefs
4 or 5 years, or
right. They let him go, or the Chiefs end up being terrible for, like, the last 4 years. And the whole time, he's like, he never comes out and publicly says it, but, like, he's very clearly angling to try and get out of this fucking contract. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
that's always how it turns out.
yeah. And I saw some reports early on that it would be that we wouldn't have numbers, that it would be every year it would be proportional percentage of the salary cap. Which when I saw that I was like, that makes sense because it always changes.
Right.
And I remember even 7 years ago in 2013 the Cowboys signed Romo to an extension. I think that was like 6 years, 60 mil, like that. Like, think about that, like that's insane. And then I
Yes.
think in 2018 Matt Ryan got like 100 mil guaranteed for an extension.
Right. Right.
And so, like, why would you do 10 years when in 5 years, quarterbacks could be making 100 mil a pop just because that's just the way it goes.
That's like what happened in the NBA when they made that new TV deal. Do you remember?
In
Like,
2016, yeah, and everybody got.
and like
Harrison
20
Barnes got 96 million.
That was the thing, is that, like, dudes that signed in 2015 for the max were, like, sick, bro. Like, they had fucking, like, no names, dude. Like, fucking bench players, like, out here getting fucking,
Hmm.
like, the old maximum. And I was like, God, yeah, like you said, Harrison Barnes is out here getting fucking paid. No disrespect to UNC basketball, definitely not a max player.
No, not at all. But I mean,
They
I'm glad
handed
he
that
got
fucking-
paid. That's
yeah,
awesome.
secure the
But
bag.
still, but yeah, like it's I'm always like when I see these. And when I see these in football, or not football, in basketball, baseball, I'm like, cool, awesome. Dude's gonna get paid. Everything's gonna work out. Like that's awesome. Yes, more money
Right.
to the players, the better. But for football, it's always like, well, they sign, like I said, they sign these big long deals, and then the team squirrels their way out of it, or the player gets hurt, so or like they would rather do a longer contract just to make sure that they get paid, but then they don't get paid what they're actually worth down the road.
Right.
So
Like fucking Scottie Pippen. That was like the whole thing in the 30
Yeah.
for 30. Where
yeah, he was
like,
just
I
trying to get his
want it.
money, and then
Yeah.
at the end he's like, pay me, but then
You
Yeah.
signed the deal.
yeah,
Like,
exactly,
it's
yeah,
shitty,
like if Patrick
But like
Mahomes
everyone
comes,
told you when you signed it, this was bad. So
Yeah, like-
this doesn't seem that bad. You know what I mean? It's just
Right.
not Scottie Pippen level, but like
no, I mean
it
half a
always
billion,
has
no.
the chance to be like you're gonna be severely underpaid by the time it's over. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
like year 9 or 10, if you're still good, which quarterbacks can be at 35, like you're gonna be very underpaid. Just because of how the market operates, you know what I mean? Like everyone just gets one upped, even if you don't deserve it. Like it's just the way it works.
Right. Like, like year 7, year 8, like you do that and then fucking Archie Manning Jr. or whatever the fuck the next line of Manning's is, he comes in and he's making, 45 on his first year deal. And it's like, well, what the hell? I've won 2 or 3 MVPs and I'm making as much as this guy.
Right.
So, yeah. But I mean, like, that's awesome. And I think there's a no trade clause. So that's awesome too.
That is good.
Yeah, and they said Ian Rappaport on Twitter said that he gets $477 million in guarantee mechanisms.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
So I mean, shout out to him. I mean, my whole thing is I just hope that like the Chiefs don't end up terrible. You know what I mean? Like I hope like Tyreek Hill doesn't like dip and then it's just a bunch of scrubs. Granted, Patrick Mahomes is the kind of transcendent talent I think that can like kind of make a bunch of scrubs work.
Yeah. I mean, dude, he's about to enter his third full season, right? And just in the last 3 years, his pass rating average is 125.
Jesus.
And I know the numbers are screwy, like 158.3 is a perfect one. It's like, well, what the fuck? How does that work?
Yeah.
But still, like,
Yeah, no, it's still impressive.
yeah, I think the career best, like, in terms of, like, over the whole career of somebody, I think it's Aaron Rodgers. And I think his is, like, 105 or 103.
Right. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, if Kansas City keeps being good, I'm all for it. I'm down to watch 10 more years of Patrick Mahomes balling out.
So, yeah. But then that just means, hey, the Cowboys are going to have to pay Dak. I think we told him. We should have paid him in March. And I know he's not going to get this level. I mean, it would be insane. It would be, I would renounce my fandom if they ever give him something that's 10
That's
years.
The thing, is you're like pay Dak, you put on your Dak cape, they gave him this, you'd be like, well, hold on.
Yeah, last week, yeah. No, yeah. Last week I was like, yeah, pay the man. And this week I'm like, no, don't pay the man. Jesus Christ.
All
yeah,
right.
but I think, I mean, he's going to have to get paid, but hopefully not anything close to this. I mean, it would be insane for them to do something like this.
Right. Definitely. So,
but speaking of insanely high numbers and stats that sort of blow your mind when you see them, there was a tweet recently. I forget who sent it. I should have bookmarked a tweet, but they said, what is a sports stat that blows your mind every single time you see it? And so I sent this to Tyler, and I was like, hey, like, what are yours? Like, do you want to do, like, what are yours that every time you see them, you're like, what the fuck? How is that even possible?
Right.
But I know he had some, and I have some that I've seen throughout the years that sort of just made me go, what? Like, how? What?
Right.
So, do you want to go, we'll do 1 and 1? We can do that?
Yeah. All right. So, the one I'll start with is, I saw it recently, is Vince Carter. And it's that Vince Carter has played against 37% of NBA players that have ever existed. Not like 37% of some weird, obscure, like, grouping. Like, if you've played in the NBA ever, you're on this list, and he's played against 37% of that list.
That's insane. But I guess that makes sense, because he was drafted in, what, like 99, 98?
Yeah, and I think it's I have to imagine, like, the fact that he bounces around teams, like, plays a little bit, you know what I mean? Just because then he's matching up against people that maybe he wouldn't have if he'd have just stayed on one team, but that's not a significant number. So it's clearly just, the only two things I can think of is one, that his career is long, which is true, and then two, like, there's just more NBA players recently. Like you're maybe getting more turnover. You know what I mean? Like, your guys near the end of the list, like, barely making the NBA, are, like, kind of going in and out, whereas before maybe they were mainstays. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, maybe some guy made a fucking career of being, like, the fucking 9th guy on the bench. You know what I mean? Whereas now it's like, we'll just fucking find somebody else. Yeah. But either way, it's still an insane stat that over a third of the people that have ever played in the NBA have played against Vince Carter.
Yeah, that's crazy. So basically, like, you have a bigger than 1 in 3 chance of ever playing against Vince Carter or being a teammate of Vince Carter's.
Yeah, I don't even think it was a teammate of Vince Carter. I think it was just played against. Like, I don't think if you were a teammate and never played against him, that was considered. I think it was just like you played against him.
He was in a bunch of teams, so I'm sure
at some point, played against him if you were with him. Like, you were a teammate and you also played against him at some point. Yeah. But still, just insane.
Yeah. My first one is Wayne Gretzky. There's one specific one, but me, I don't really follow hockey. And you sort of, I always think about how every sport has one player that's so good that sort of transcends the sport, or like that people who don't really follow the sport know about him. Like basketball, it's LeBron or MJ before him. Brady and Manning, probably in football. Like, if you don't follow football, you know who they are. And then baseball would be like, I guess, who would be now? Like, I don't think there's anybody now but Barry Bonds. But anyway.
Barry Bonds or Derek Jeter, I guess.
Yeah,
like Derek Jeter wasn't even that great. He was like an icon because he played for the team.
Oh, Aaron Rodriguez, maybe? A-Rod?
Oh, yeah. Alex Rodriguez?
Alex Rodriguez. Sorry, Alex. Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, so, yeah, Wayne Gretzky, you always hear he's like the GOAT in hockey.
Right.
But the one stat that always blows my mind when I see it, so he's the all-time leader in points, which is goals and assists combined.
Right.
If he had never scored a goal ever in his career, he would still be number one in points alone, just on assists.
Jesus. Yeah, that's intense.
Yeah. So imagine if LeBron's and if they counted assists to points, LeBron would or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar would have been number one, even if he had never scored a single point in the NBA, all off of assists.
Jesus. That's intense. Yeah, Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky's the one guy that everyone's like, well, no, hold on. Like in football, like it's like Jerry Rice, but that's still like one position. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And then like in basketball, it's more debatable just because everybody can kind of do everything. You know what I mean? You have Kareem, LeBron, Michael Jordan, fucking Wilt is probably in there somewhere. You know what I mean? Like, and it's just like, so that's all debatable. But like hockey, it's straight up just like, no, it's Wayne Gretzky. Wayne Gretzky's the fucking guy. Like, there's no confusion whatsoever. It's just,
it's like the clear cut, like, and I'm sure there's hockey guys who are listening who maybe be like, well, Jim Bob, whatever, he was, he was the Red Wings captain in 1942 to 1961 or whatever.
See, I don't even think that's true because my dad pays attention to a lot of sports, and like
you're telling me hockey doesn't have the equivalent of Kobe stands?
I mean, I really don't. I think Wayne Gretzky is so far ahead that it's like, if you want to be a Kobe stan, it's like you're fighting for fucking second place. Like I legitimately don't think anyone would tell you that Wayne Gretzky wasn't the best of all time. And I think, and it's not. I don't think it's even close. Like you said, he could have never scored a goal and still would have led in points in history. You know what I mean?
Just like absolutely insane.
Yeah, I don't think there's a single person like you're gonna hear like, who's the best? Wayne Gretzky. Who's your favorite? And then you're gonna get like the little extra. You know what I mean? Like, oh, fucking Bobby Orr for the Red Wings, or fucking Mario Lemieux for whatever fucking team he played for, or Sidney Crosby for the Penguins. Penguins. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then so it's like you're gonna get those, but I still think everyone says Wayne Gretzky. You know what? Here's the deal. If anybody out there listening, first of all, I don't know anybody personally that watches hockey. But if anybody out there listening wants to give me a hot take of not Wayne Gretzky, let us know. And I just want to see, if it's possible, or if everyone is legitimately like, no, it's Wayne Gretzky though.
Yeah, make an argument. Yeah, make an argument for us.
So yeah, but I do think it's Wayne Gretzky, and it's always nuts anytime that stat comes up for someone to be so dominant. All right, so
what's your next one?
So my next one is Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. First of all, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar scored 38,387 points, which is just absurd.
That is absurd, dude. I think I mentioned earlier in an episode about LeBron being there or being close to it. Yeah. And it's like he's been playing since he became an adult, since he was 18, and he's in year 17 now. He's like 35, right? And he's still like 3,000 points away from him.
God, dude, that's so intense. But that's not my stat. That is a rightful stat. I could see why someone would point to that as a crazy stat. But my stat is that Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the league leader in history of MVP awards, he has 6. The next highest is 5. He won MVPs 10 years apart, I believe. It might be 9. It looks like it's 9. Either way, for there to be a 9-year span where like you're always in contention, you know what I mean? Like that's just fucking nuts.
Yeah.
It's just like that's it's crazy.
And especially in a time, or maybe it wasn't like this back then, but I feel like nowadays people get they get MVPs, and then the next year they maybe don't want to give it to them just because they're like, well, he already has one, or maybe somebody's comes close. So like what I'm thinking about is like James Harden puts up his MVP year, and then last year it was him and Giannis, right? And I feel like some people probably were like, well, Giannis doesn't have like the points per game, but he's more like all well-rounded. But you could have easily given it to Harden, right? Like nobody would have been upset, or maybe some people would have been upset, but I don't think it would have been that big of an outcry.
Right.
But like to give him his first, and then give him 4 more, and then by the end you're like, he's good, but like we can give it to somebody else, but still giving it to him, that just shows you how dominant he was.
Right.
in that first MVP as well as that sixth one.
Yeah, I mean, he has 2 back-to-back MVPs. He won in 71, 72,
Mm.
and then won in 74, then 76 and 77, and then 1980. So, I mean, like, that's just it's a combination for me of the amount and the span. You know what I mean? Just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and then also just like 38,000 fucking 388 points or 87 points is just so much. Like, it's just so much, dude.
It's just
And
so
he's
much
like a black belt. He's like a fucking black belt. Like, you don't want the smoke either. Like, my man's out here dominating all aspects of life, dude. He was in Airplane.
The greatest college player of all time.
Yeah, also. He's the one they had to ban dunking for, right? Isn't that?
Yeah.
Like, the fuck?
Yeah. And then he got those 38,000 without the 3-point line for most of his career.
Right.
Like, but yeah, I think he's a lot like, I feel like he's somebody like LT, maybe a little bit more, where people sort of go the GOAT, and they either they say Magic, Larry, or they say most of them say Jordan, you say LeBron, but there's nobody who's like a hardcore Kareem stan.
Right.
Nobody goes Kareem, let's go. I feel like that's a little bit like LT, maybe not as much, but somebody who is, I don't want to say forgotten, but he should be like he should be right there with Jordan, I think.
Right. I think he's up there. I think it's those 3, and then I think those are my 3. I think those are my top 3. Like, you know what I mean? Like, between Kareem,
LeBron, MJ, and Kareem.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think so too. Yeah. My next one is Jerry Rice. Now, of course, you could go to his stuff in the peak in the 90s, or him winning the Super Bowls late in the 80s. But I'm gonna go specifically with Jerry Rice, like later in his career. I'm talking about like age 40. So there's only 2 players who have caught a pass at age 40 or older in NFL history. Jerry Rice is one, and I bet you'll never guess the second one. I'll give you 2 guesses.
I can't think of fucking wide receivers that go past the age
right.
of 40. What the fuck? I don't know. You're gonna have to tell me. I can't even come up with like an inkling.
Who could it be? Yeah, it's actually Brett Favre. He caught a pass that was batted back to him in 2009. Oh yeah,
I forgot about that.
That's it. It's just him and Brett Favre. Somehow. But not only that, but between the ages of 40 and 42, he caught 162 catches for 2,100 yards and 10 touchdowns.
Jesus. 40, bro.
Yeah.
He's a man. He's 40.
Dude, when he was on the Raiders team, he went to the Super Bowl with the Raiders in 2002. Like, they would have won a 5th one then, or a 4th one then. But yeah, he was putting up like that's why he is a lot like Emmett, because he was just like the workhorse who just put up the great stats. But I think he was a mixture
also
between
Barry.
Emmett and Barry. Yeah, I was gonna say he was Emmett and Barry. That's why I think I personally think he's the greatest football player of all time. Like,
right.
Regardless, like, I think even better than Brady. I know with the rings and stuff, but just in terms of his stats are like if Brady had put up 50 touchdowns every single season.
Right. Bro, Jerry Rice and Brett Favre.
The 2, yeah. That's a trivia question. So next time you're in a bar, whenever the hell that'll be, and they go, "Who are the 2 players above 40 who caught a ball?"
And someone's gonna say Brett Favre, and everyone's gonna be like, "That motherfucker listens to the podcast."
I'm gonna be like, "Oh, you just think about old football players?" Yeah. Okay, yeah, buddy. And then it'll ding it right. Yeah.
Yeah.
But which is your last one?
My last one is LeBron James. If you've noticed, all 3 of mine are basketball, because those are basketball is the one sport I'm probably the most into. But LeBron James, and it's that in 2015, when he lost to the Warriors, he was the first player in NBA history to lead in points, rebounds, and assists of every player on both teams. In 2015 when he lost. But then in 2016, he was like, I already put the team on my back, but now I'm going to put both teams on my back. And led all players in points, rebounds, assists again, and then also blocks and steals. So what you're telling, the reason this is insane to me is first of all, what the fuck? How are you leading every stat for both teams? Like just without even really thinking about it on an in-depth level, just on like a generic looking, like its stats. It's like who led the series in points? LeBron. Steals LeBron. Blocks LeBron. Fucking like it's so absurd that like the one guy was the answer. You know what I mean? And then on top of that, if you think specifically about who's on both teams. So he led the series in points. That means he scored more than Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, fucking Kyrie Irving. Those are all world class elite scorers. He was like, I'm outscoring y'all. So then we're talking about assists. That's again Kyrie Irving, who's not really known for passing, so that one's kind of you can count on that one. Steph Curry, who again is more known for shooting, and then I guess like Draymond is a pretty good passer, and kind of facilitates a lot out of that. But like assists is the one where it's like, okay, I get LeBron, like that lines up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like no matter what. Rebounds, he out rebounded Draymond Green and Kevin Love.
And Tristan Thompson.
Oh yeah, and Tristan Thompson. Kevin Love was like. That was like one of his big things in Minnesota. It was like that dude fucking out rebounds everyone. You know what I mean? Like he offensive, defensive rebounds doesn't matter. He's like the rebound guy. Yeah. LeBron was oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say even to this day, like anytime I see like 30-30 or like I need to do something that's like 30 and 30, I'm like, oh, the Kevin Love and Minnesota numbers, got it coming up.
So LeBron was like, fuck it, I'm not rebounding y'all. Then in fucking blocks, like Tristan Thompson, fucking Draymond, fucking Iguodala. Like blocks and steals. You're talking like Klay Thompson is great defensively. You're talking about all these good defensive players. He's like, no, I'm out doing that too. Like to be better than all of those people at their particular thing and all at once. Like I remember there's a stretch where Michael Jordan played point guard, and it was like the most intense fucking stat lines ever. I'll have to search it and find it because I don't know it off the top of my head to like give you the year and what games it was. But I want to say it was like again, completely off the top of the dome for something that the last time I talked about it was probably fucking 8 years ago. Like, I want to say it was like a 15 to 20 game span where he's playing point and he's like dominating. But the thing is like, when he did that, if I'm, again, 8 years ago, I feel like you saw a drop off on like the assists.
Other stats.
You know what I mean? Like,
right. Yes.
But LeBron was like, nah, I got it. Like, I'm scoring, I'm rebounding, I'm passing, I'm fucking blocking, I'm making steals. Like, I'm out here doing it. And that is the year that the Warriors were 73-9, and they lied. And they lost because LeBron put the team on his fucking back.
Like, those are insane. Like, considering he's going to end up, by the time this is all done, he's going to end up, I think, top 5 in every single one of those categories. Or at least the top 3. Assists, rebounds, and points. And you mentioned Draymond. He out-rebounded him or out-blocked him. I'm looking, former player, defensive player of the year, Draymond Green. I'm looking at the best, or the defensive players of the year list. Mm-hmm. It is an absolute travesty that LeBron has never won that award.
Yeah. I think, I don't know. I think that's fair because I do think it's hard to say that LeBron gives forth full effort on defense. You know what I mean? Like,
he used to. I mean, maybe not anymore, but I'm talking about like 2010, 2009 LeBron.
Even then, I still don't think. I think LeBron's the ultimate like turn it on when it matters guy. You know what I mean? So I think you use a lot of memories of him like turning it on when it mattered, and so like it lives larger in your head. But like the Defensive Player of the Year award has almost always just been kind of like a workhorse award. You know what I mean? Yeah. We're out here fucking grinding. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, like Marcus Gasol and Joakim Noah.
Yeah. Like, and Tony Allen's like always in contention because like every play, bro. I cannot imagine what it would be like to play basketball and have Tony Allen guard you. Like, I don't care how good you are. At a certain point, it's just like, dude, can you fucking relax? Like, can I dribble up the court? No. Like, you're not gonna let me do that. I gotta work. to get from the free throw line from my own free throw line to the half court. Fuck you, dude. I ain't trying to do this all day. You know what I mean? Like, I guarantee every person that ever had to match up with Tony Allen, like, circled that fucking day on their calendar and got up to it, and they're like, oh, fuck, dude. Coach, can I have the practice before this day off? Because I'm going to be so fucking tired. Like, I'm going to be so mad. I'm going to be so tired. I'm going to be so frustrated. Because the other thing is, it's not like Tony Allen's, like, Kawhi Leonard. Like, Kawhi Leonard's defensive fucking genius. But, like, Kawhi Leonard's just like, I'm going to get in my stance and lock you down and just, like, you know, I have hands bigger than fucking catcher's mitts, and I'm just going to lock your shit down because my arms are super long, too. Tony Allen was like, I'm going to fucking shove my elbow in your fucking hip. I'm going to knee your fucking leg. You know what I mean? Like, it was just like, I'm just going to dog you out for all 48 minutes that you're in this fucking game, or all, you know, however many minutes he was in. I just like can't imagine what it would be like to have to play against that dude. I just fucking, those would be the games I asked, like, for fucking weight management or load management. Like the moment he comes up with sketch, like, I'm getting real fatigued.
Yeah, it's like there was that that old Cat Williams skit or the bit in his comedy where he talks about pulling up in that Chrysler that looks like a Rolls Royce, and he's just until a real Rolls Royce pulls up, and he's like, I don't even want to be here, man. I'm just gonna turn around. Like, I don't even want to be part of this.
I don't even want to fucking be here right now. Yeah, that's every player that ever had to play against fucking Tony Allen. But yeah.
But yeah. So my last stat is a baseball one. Now, I personally, I'm not a big baseball fan. I mean,
no one is anymore. No one is. Exactly. Games go too long. It's not a fun sport to watch.
Yeah, and like, I really only watch the World Series, if even that. But one that I always see come up is Tony Gwynn. And what I always see from him is his batting. So I don't really, like I said, I don't really have a frame for this. But I know that these numbers are insane just because I've always heard that just the act of hitting a baseball is the hardest thing you can do in sports.
It has to be. If you really, like, think about the logistics, is that, hold on, I'm going to fucking... no, I'm not. I'm not going to go through the process of trying to figure out the length of the mound and the fucking speed and
like
work
60,
together. I'm not fucking doing it. But
just imagine 90 mile per hour,
90 miles an hour, bro.
Coming at your head.
Yeah, a baseball. Dude, there's a chance that if a car flew by at 99 miles an hour or like 100 miles an hour, that I wouldn't be able to hit it with a fucking baseball bat.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I wouldn't even be able to throw a baseball at it. Or not a baseball bat at the fucking car. I would miss it by a mile. So the one set that I'm gonna hit, and then we can talk about it, or the one that I'm gonna hit,
oh,
one that I'm gonna talk about, and then we can talk about it, is the top 12 batting seasons since 1961. He owns 4 of them. Damn. He hit 368 in 95, 370 in 87, 372 in 97, 394 in 1994.
Jesus,
that means he's hitting almost half of the balls pitched to him.
Holy shit. And for what it's worth, like, when you're in the three, again, don't watch a lot of baseball, so some asshole is going to come here and be like, you're a fucking idiot. It's not true. But, like, if I'm not mistaken, pretty much anytime you hit in the 300s at all, you're like, you're a good batter. You know what I mean? Like, you're getting on base a lot.
Yes.
And that man was almost at the 400s. He was like, nah, dog, I got 392, no problem. Like, you throw me shit, I'll be on base. Don't worry about it.
I think, like that's like hitting, like, if you shot 39% from 3, like, that, you're a great 3-point shooter. But now imagine hitting a baseball at that.
At 100 miles an hour or 90 miles an hour.
Exactly.
And also, even more insane than the fastballs coming at 90 fucking miles an hour, which is just absurd simply because it's the number, like 90 miles an hour, and it's that small, and you're telling me to take a swing at it? Fuck you.
I have to hit it, and I not only hit it, but I have to hit it so that I can get on base.
Right, you have to hit it on base between defenders, and also between these 2 foul lines. Like, you can't ding it up, you can't ding it back, you can't ding it down. Like, you have to fucking nail it. So on top of that, one of the coolest things, here's the deal. Baseball is super boring for me to watch. In my opinion, is the most boring sport to watch. But one of the coolest things to watch is if you see on Twitter, if you see videos where they'll overlay, like 4 different pitches from a pitcher, and like have them come through at the same time. So you see the
Mm-hmm.
arm movement, and what's nuts to me is that the arm releases the ball at the exact same spot in all four pitches, and you have one that's 90 miles down the center. You have one that's a changeup that's supposed to look like a fastball and is actually only 80. Then you have one that like halfway to the plate still looks like a fastball and then moves 5 feet to the left. Bro, get the fuck out of here. How are you supposed to hit that? Like, not only are you saying I have to hit a ball at 90 miles an hour, you're saying in half that time I have to make the judgment whether that's going to come straight or it's just going to fucking tail off into God knows where and I shouldn't swing at it. It's the most absurd shit I've ever heard. And for that man to hit 392 is so fucking insane.
Mm-hmm. And like, you always see you always hear about LeBron, he would have played football, or you see guys who play football who maybe, they can shoot some hoops here and then. I don't think I see guys, be able to hit a baseball from like an actual like pro pitcher.
Yeah, there's a select
you
few.
would put Giannis out there and he would look dumb.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's the thing. Is I think baseball is such a specialist sport. Like there are guys that do both. I mean, famously Bo Jackson, and then you had Russell Wilson got drafted. Kyler Murray got drafted. Those guys could. I'm not saying they're gonna go bat 390 fucking two, but like they could probably not look completely foolish. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But like, you put a basketball player like you said, you put Giannis out there and you'd be like, go play wide receiver. Like I think just for the sheer like muscle and just like vertical, you know what I mean? Like he could.
Right. Put him in a curl route and he'll go up and get
right, yeah. Put him in a hit, put him in a fade route in the corner of the end zone. You know what I mean? Like they'll make it work a little bit. They're still not going to be a starter in the NFL. You know what I mean? But like, I could expect Giannis or LeBron to catch a few passes. If you threw 10 passes out there, you know what I mean? I could expect them to catch a few. Or just generic NBA players. I think you could expect to catch a few, whether it's just because they're quick, they can cut quick, you know what I mean? Whatever. Unless the person has already played baseball on at least a college level, none of those people will hit or even foul one pitch that's coming at 90 miles an hour. I promise they won't even foul it. Like, they won't even nick it as it fucking passes them. There's no chance. Because every pitcher is just going to be like, I'm going to throw you a curveball. And you're not going to be able to tell where the fuck it's going. And it's just going to fucking leave. And you're just going to be swinging looking like an asshole. And then when I've thrown you 5 curveballs in a row. And you're like, all right, this next one's going to be a curveball. I'm going to zing this fucking 98 mile an hour fastball by you. And you're going to wonder what the fuck just happened. That it's such a specialist, like, you know what I mean? Like, there's no transferable skills. Like,
no.
Nothing in basketball prepares you for 90 miles an hour, following it with your eyes, and then making contact with the baseball bat. Nothing.
You either got it or you don't. And
right.
Tony Gwynn had it.
Tony Gwynn did fucking have it. That's so fucking stupid.
Yeah. But speaking of things that are borderline supernatural, I started a new show this week.
Okay. What show did you watch?
Yeah, I started What We Do in the Shadows. Have you heard of the show or the movie that it's based on?
I haven't. I have not.
So it's a show on FX that I'm watching on Hulu because they have sort of a partnership. And the show premiered last year, 2019, and it's based on the 2014 movie by the same name. And that movie was written and directed, or it was co-written and directed by Taika Waititi, and it's the movie he did before he got hired to do Thor Ragnarok.
Right.
And it's co-written by Jermaine Clement, who I think he was the one who created the show, and I think he's the showrunner, or he's one of the guys behind it, one of the creatives. And he was on Flight of the Conchords.
Okay, I was like gonna look it up because in my head I was like, Jermaine Clement, I'm pretty sure that's the dude from Flight of the Conchords. But I was like, if I say, is that the dude from Flight of the Conchords, and it's not, I'm gonna look like the biggest fucking idiot. Like, I mean, he was like, I have to look this up before I say anything. But, all right.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah. And so he's doing that now. And so they made the movie together in 2014, and I watched it a couple years ago, and I really liked it. It's sort of like a mockumentary, but it's about 3 vampires living in New Zealand. And the show is pretty much the same thing. It's just 3 vampires living in Staten Island with a couple of other characters thrown in. And so far, I'm about halfway through season 2. There's only 2 seasons, and I really like it. It's a it's a much more typical comedy than Rami, which I talked about recently. By the way, I finished that. It's amazing. Watch that. But this one's more of like a typical, just sort of situational comedy, but mockumentary. Think about like kind of like The Office, but with a supernatural twist. The 3 lead vampires are great. And then they have like a familiar who's like a human who helps them out, and he's great too. I think there's a couple of good cameos as well. And there's one episode specifically in season 1 where they have a big vampire council meeting. And the members of the council are vampires from different movies, playing the vampires that they played in those movies.
Oh, that's great.
And yeah, and so they get some pretty good cameos that I'm not going to spoil because they're good surprises. But you kind of like throughout the scene where that happens, you go, whoa, wait, how did they get him? Whoa, how did they get that guy? But anyway, yeah, I definitely recommend it. I'm trying to think of another show that would be similar that I would say, if you like this, watch this. But I would say, I guess if you like The Office, if you like The Office and maybe are okay with like a supernatural twist to it, I definitely recommend this one. It is it's a little bit more along the lines of like HBO than like NBC. So it is, they say fucks and it's a little bit more violent, I guess. Well, definitely more violent than The Office.
Right.
But yeah, I definitely recommend it. It's 2 seasons, 10 episodes each. So, and I'm almost done with it. And I literally just started it a little bit less than a week ago.
Awesome. So I'll have to check that out.
Yeah. Have you been watching anything recently?
So 2 things that I've started and haven't gotten really anywhere into yet, but I'll still bring them up so that'll hold me accountable to actually fucking keep watching them, which is I started Rick and Morty, and because I'm an idiot, like I still feel the need to go back to season 1 and watch them. Like I don't even think it fucking matters anymore. Like I don't think like you have to do that with Rick and Morty. But like I still feel like I need to. Like I'm gonna feel like an asshole if I just jump right into season 4. And what's worse is I've watched seasons 1 and 2 before, but it's been so long that I'm like I gotta watch them again. So I've started that. And then also I made it through, I got like halfway through the first episode of Middle Ditch and Swords, which is a long form improv show. I literally this morning like started watching it, got about halfway through it, and then I had some stuff I had to do, so I paused it. But it seems like it's going to be pretty good. Improv's like kind of a weird thing. It's definitely not for everyone, but like. And long form improv is like them taking one topic and stretching it for an hour. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's still going to be, I like it. I'm a big comedy fan anyways. Like most of what I watch on TV when I finally do watch stuff is comedy specials. They're one of my, I just enjoy them. I love to laugh and just like fucking, also when I laugh, dude, I like fucking cry. I'm just like an awful person to like be in a room with when I'm laughing.
Yeah, I've heard great things about it. I think I've heard, everybody who I've heard talk about it say this. They've said the same thing about improv, where it's like, well, it's not for everybody, but they always say the same thing, which is that these guys are so good at it. Like they're the Michael Vicks. Well, that's not a good one. They're the Patrick Mahomeses of improv, that it's so good that like there's no way you don't at least enjoy some of the episodes. Like maybe if not all of them are your cup of tea, then they say at least most of them are.
Yeah, my favorite thing so far in just the half of the episode I have watched is at the very beginning. So they start and like they come out and they're talking to like this group of 4 people in the crowd, right? And they're like I think it's just like talk about shit and then like just get a premise to start with just based off what the conversation was. It was like 4 minutes of conversation. It wasn't a whole lot. And then they, turn that into another 45 minutes, which is just impressive. Even if you don't, like, even if it's not your thing, it's just impressive to be able to like talk to someone for 4 minutes and then turn around and act out a story for 45 minutes, just loosely based on like a couple things you heard.
Right.
But like one of them was like, so knowing that this is a long form improv show, right? They're asking this person a question. It's like one group of people's, or like this couple's about to get married, and they have 2 friends with them, and those 4 people are who they're talking to, and they're like, they're talking about their group of friends and how like one person's like, oh, my friend's like this person's cousin's fucking brother's roommate's high school, like in high school or whatever the fuck, and they're like, all right, like that's not, you know what I mean? Like they're immediately like, I don't know if annoyed's the right word, but it's like, Jesus Christ, like really, like this is what I got. And what gets
Yeah.
me is they're like, all right, so what can you? And one of them's like, oh, and the woman that's getting married was like, oh, I dated that other person that's in our friend group in like middle school, and
Hmm.
he like in like sixth grade, and they were like, they asked her, she was like, so what was he like in sixth grade? And she goes, short. And immediately Shorts like puts his fucking hands up to his face. Like that doesn't help me. That's not what I'm looking for. You know what I mean? Like
He's
and
like,
he,
oh my god, I can't believe I called on her. Jesus, I could call literally anybody else.
like he literally puts his hand, like faces in. Like the point is they're trying to get to like core characteristics of their personality. You know what I mean? Like, what was
Mm,
this person like? You'd be like, oh, a goofball or awkward. She
yeah.
was like short, and he was like, we're all short in sixth grade. And like the crowd starts laughing, and he points to the crowd. He's like, all of you motherfuckers were short in sixth grade, so I don't know what you guys are laughing about. But it's
Mm.
just like immediately like watching him put his head in his hands, like when she says short, killed me. Like it wasn't even a joke. It was just like I can immediately like I knew what they were trying to get out of it, got a shitty answer in return, and they're like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like,
But then that's where, like I was saying, like that's where the talent comes in, is seeing them work with that and
yeah, to imitate
making
the
it
guy
really
they
funny.
call Short Paul, like one of them sits in a chair and like hikes his knees up a little bit and swings his feet at the chair. So that way, like every time that character's on, he's like swinging his feet at a chair.
Nice.
But it's pretty good. I'm gonna have to. I'm definitely gonna keep watching it. But
Yeah,
it's definitely
definitely.
something
Yeah,
worth checking out if you're like a comedy guy.
yeah. Let me know how it is, because like I said, I've listened to a few podcasts, and they've watched it, and every single person has said the same thing, where it's like, hey, like I know I know I said improv, but I promise it's actually pretty good, and they say to stick with it, and that it's totally worth it.
Yeah, and like I don't know Middleditch from much, but I know all I can think of every time I see Schwartz is fucking John Ralphio in Parks and Rec.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I was locked in the moment he was one of the guys. I was like, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. But the last topic we have here, just to wrap up the episode, before our The Last of Us Part 2 spoiler portion at the end, is free PlayStation Plus games for July. I know you wanted to touch on this, because you mentioned them, or you sent me the link to them about which ones are free this month, and I'm definitely going to download them. But you wanted to touch on them?
Yeah, so let me pull this up because there's one in specific, which is the reason why I brought this up, but I'm gonna still touch on
Mm-hmm.
all of them. So the free. So some people were upset with this because this was like the 10-year anniversary of PlayStation Plus and them giving away free games every month. So people thought it was going to be like a crazy like good list of games, and they did give us an extra. But it's Rise of the Tomb Raider, which I've heard the newest Tomb Raider games are great. I haven't played them, but I've heard they're great.
Yeah, I played the first one.
Okay, you did. Was it good?
Yeah, it's just Tomb Raider, so it's like a hard reboot, and it came out in 2013, and like playing the Uncharted games the last couple months, I look back on that and being like, okay, they totally ripped it off. Like it's literally like take Uncharted, Nathan Drake, put it on Lara Croft Tomb Raider, make it a little bit darker, and that's what Tomb Raider is.
That one's hard because it's hard for me to say that they ripped off Uncharted when Uncharted is an updated rip off of Tomb Raider. You know what I mean? Like the original
Yeah.
Tomb Raiders back in the day. When Uncharted first came out, everyone was like, "Oh, so Tomb Raider with a guy." You know what I mean? And then
Yeah.
this came out, and it's like, "Oh, Uncharted with a girl." Like,
Uncharted with a girl, yeah, but I think they mean specifically like these like action sequences where like they're like interactive. It's kind of hard to explain, but like it's sort of like you know it when you see it. Like the
Yeah.
one, like the Nathan Drake running down the alleyway with the truck behind him, and you have to
Right.
like shoot at it. Right.
yeah,
It's like those kind of
yeah.
situations.
The question of that is just whether or not you think that's them ripping off Uncharted, or if that's kind of just like the natural evolution of that genre. You know what I mean?
That's true. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's a whole different discussion. But either way, like it's still good, and it still has its own merit. You know what I mean? Like it definitely shares a lot of elements with Uncharted. Maybe it ripped off some of them, but it's still the flagship of the genre that Uncharted came to rule. You know
Yeah,
what I mean?
yeah.
So it's like you kind of just have to give it some respect, anyways. The other one's Erica, which I literally know nothing about. I couldn't possibly
Same.
tell you anything about this, or if it's good, if it's trash, if it's long, short. I don't know. The name of the game is Erica. That's all I got. But the main reason I wanted to come to everyone today with this list of PlayStation Plus games is the one that's probably the least exciting out of all of them, which is NBA 2K20. Because 2K20, if I'm not mistaken, like a month ago was on sale for like $10. And everyone's like, really? This is the free game you're going to give me? The game that I could have just bought for $10 a month ago and still chose not to? So, like, it's definitely not exciting. But here's what I'll say. Is that I haven't played an NBA game since 2K18. I didn't play 2K19, haven't played 2K20. I'm going to download 2K20 tomorrow or Tuesday because obviously this is going to be Thursday. Fuck, dude, this is like a week and a half. I goofed it all up, dude. Fuck me. Either way, I'm going to download it when it becomes available.
It'll be available
tomorrow for
available
me.
When it comes out.
Right now at the time of this recording. And when this podcast comes out, everyone else can download it. And I just say this to say that if we're playing a regular exhibition game, not like a my career thing with your creative players, none of that. If we're playing an exhibition game, and I don't care if you can use a fucking all-time fucking team, you can use fucking Michael Jordan's Bulls, you can use the 73-9 Warriors. I'm telling you that I will take a team with a worse overall and whip that ass, bro. I'm calling out any person that wants the smoke. I'm handling all the smoke. If anybody wants this work, I'm giving it out for free. When this game's out for free on PlayStation, fucking, you can message me on Twitter. You can fucking message me on PSN. You can message me on Twitter to get my PSN, to then message me on PSN, and I'm gonna still whip that ass because that's the rules.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, I was like, you listening, listeners? You will be able to take some of Tyler's money because he seems like he's pretty confident about his 2K skills.
Yeah, I'm feeling pretty confident, and I don't know if I'm gonna put any actual money on the table. I don't know if that's where I'm at right now, but you know, because I totaled my fucking vehicle and need to buy the new one, so it might be a little irresponsible to bet money on 2K20. But I'm still, for bragging rights, if nothing else, I'm still handing out the smoke. Anybody wants it?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I mean, I might take you up on that. I'm gonna download that one. Gonna download Rise of the Tomb Raider. I almost said Rise of the Skywalker. Jesus. But anyway, yeah, I'm definitely gonna download those two. I've been playing the Uncharted ones. The Uncharted games I've been playing the last few months that I've been talking about. I got those free off of PlayStation Plus. So
yeah, and I don't even think those were like a free Plus game of the month. That was like a weird separate thing they did. I think because of coronavirus, I think they just offered that for free.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it wasn't even like one of the monthly games. They were just like, people are stuck at home, we're giving this game out for free. Like, it wasn't even on their schedule. They just did it, which is cool.
I'm surprised they didn't do that with The Last of Us. Being like, hey, like, this comes out in 2 months, you know.
Yeah, I wonder, maybe it was just because, maybe they just didn't think about it, or I wonder if they were just like, everyone that wants to play the second one by now has already played the first one. Like, I wonder if they were worried they were going to get too much.
Too late by that point, yeah.
Like, I wonder if they would just they were worried that, like, they'd get flack for everyone being like, really, you're going to give me this game that came with the console? You know what I mean? Like that's going to be one of our games for the month, is the one that you gave everybody when they bought a PS4. So,
True.
That could be why.
Yeah, I mean, if it would have been that, I would have been like, I would have been like, what the hell is this? I just bought this like 2 weeks ago when I bought my PS4. So, yeah, you're right.
Right. But, so yeah. Giving out smoke on fucking 2K20. Haven't even played it yet. Still willing to give out the smoke. Still ready to talk shit, having never played this game yet.
Whenever, if somebody ever does reach out, please let us know.
Oh, dude, I'll fucking stream it. I'll fucking stream it on Twitch. Dude, you're gonna see whoever I'm playing against, they're gonna be the fucking picture of Odell where he's fucking like leaned back catching that pass against, I believe, the Cowboys, but they replaced the football with a giant fucking L, dude. That's gonna be everybody I play against. Catching L's.
Oh yeah. And on that note, we'll wrap up this week's episode.
Yeah.
Of Tyler telling our listeners that he's gonna beat the shit out of you on 2K.
Bro, last week we put out a recruitment pitch for our terrorist organization. This week, I'm beating everybody's ass in 2K20. This is the problematic podcast.
Yeah, that'll be the homework. It'll be hit Tyler up on 2K and let's see, tell a sibling about the episode. Those are your two.
Yeah, tell a sibling
homework assignments. Tell a sibling, and if you don't have a sibling, tell your best friend, and reach out to Tyler to see if you can beat his ass on 2K.
Not gonna happen. Can't wait. So that's the episode. We are still going to talk about The Last of Us 2, but we're going to give you this regular outro first. So you can catch me at Team. Sorry, you can catch the podcast at Diff Animals Pod on Instagram and Twitter.
Mhm.
You can email us directly at differentanimalspodcast@gmail.com. If you want to catch me individually, you can catch me on Twitter or IG at TMoneybags, MUNNY. And you ever?
Yeah, and you can catch me on Instagram at evercastro92.
Okay. Okay. And that's stay safe, stay entertained. That's the episode, guys.
Take it easy, guys. Be safe.
Peace. All right, so now we're gonna talk about The Last of Us 2 because
Yep.
we both wanted to bookend this with Last of Us 2 because we just finished it, so it's fresh in our minds.
Yep.
And also, we didn't want anybody to run in any spoilers if they didn't want to. So this right here is going to be a spoiler alert that this whole fucking game will probably be ruined if you listen to this point forward and you haven't finished it.
Yes. You've been warned.
Okay, so now that that's out of the way,
Yeah.
how did you feel? How did you feel about, let's start with, like, how did you feel about the way the game played? Good? Did you have a good time with it? Like, fun game? What would you rate it?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of, so I just finished it today, and I actually, I'm like made a point to finish it today because I wanted to be able to talk about it on here, and so I knew I was close because it was that part where you're on that island with the scars, and I was like, oh, well then after this, Abby meets Ellie in the theater, and then that's like the end of the game, like right, like that's when you would think that it would end,
Right.
but then the game goes on like a Return of the King thing where they just has like fucking 25 endings.
Yeah.
But we can talk about that in a little bit. But I loved it. Like at first, like it's just so long that the first like 3 or 4 hours, you're kind of like, well, like is this it? Like this is so good. But of course, it's only like the first, it's the epilogue, it's the prologue. It's just getting started.
Right. It's kind of like how I said, like when I went back to play the first one, everything you're doing with Tess is just like I don't even fucking want to play this anymore. You know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
Like I
now
imagine
that
when you finish this one and you go back to play it, you're gonna start and you're like, Jesus Christ, I don't feel like doing this shit.
right, like that, except expanded even more. Right. But yeah, I loved it. I thought the ending was great. But the ending, the proper ending. But I feel like that could have been trimmed as much. But yeah,
When you say the ending, you mean
them on the beach.
Okay.
Yeah, so like them on the beach. I feel like them on the beach. You could have made that in the theater. Like you could have easily had that then.
Yeah.
Like Ellie gets the upper hand in the theater. You have a long fucking a long battle in the theater, like a fist fight.
Mm-hmm.
And then she has the same realization when she's about to kill Abby in the movie theater. I don't know if you had to have that extra, her in the domestic life and then her fighting her again.
Right. Yeah, I agree. Like I think you would miss a little bit without it. Like I think there's a little bit, but I think my issue is that I don't know that the little bit at the end is really worth the extra length. But I see why they felt they needed it.
Right. But and it also, in your mind, because it used the Seattle day 1, Seattle day 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so it uses that, and so you think, in exactly the halfway point, it switches back to Abby day 1, and so in your mind you kind of go, okay, this is what the story is. It's a mirror. It's supposed to be exactly the front as it is in the back, because they're supposed to be mirrors of each other. Be like these complicated women who, they're killing for revenge, but they, it's kind of hard to justify, but it's also completely understandable, right?
Right.
And so it has this perfect mirror, and then you think you're gonna meet right at the end, and then it has another extra chunk that's like, it's like an epilogue, but it's like not quite wrapped up in a way that it should. Or I mean, like I loved it, but I was like, okay, like why are we going through this? Like, couldn't we have wrapped this up in the theater? Like, couldn't this conflict of Liv and Abby fighting against Ellie? Like, couldn't that have also just happened at the movie theater?
The only reason why I'm not sure is that like at the movie theater, like the one thing you gain at the end is, it's at the after the movie theater, Ellie it feels unfulfilled,
Hmm.
right, and that she like still feels like she didn't do right by Joel. And even when Tommy comes and like does the dickhead Tommy thing, which seemed a little weird, but like whatever. I mean, so here's one thing. I read an article that you sent to me, where someone talked about this, and like he talks about how the motivations seem off, after the movie theater. Like Tommy is like randomly out for vengeance, which doesn't seem like it necessarily fits his character,
Yeah.
and Ellie like goes back out again, even though it seems like it doesn't fit. And so, personally, like I did get those disconnects, right? But I wasn't sure if that was intentional because we're talking about a level of trauma that has happened in these situations that's extreme. You know
Mm.
what I mean? So like
Mm.
it's like as much as I want to say like the motivations don't match, like it does feel out of place when you're doing it. I wonder if that's intentional because we're in a situation where like we're already in an environment with fucking zombies murdering people every day. You know what I mean? And then
Right.
on top of that, like Joel gets fucking tortured. Someone, he doesn't really get tortured in front of her, but when she gets there, there's no doubt that he's been tortured.
Right.
And then it's finished off in front of her, and so like, and then you get the PTSD sequence, even with everything hunky dory,
Hmm.
when she's in the barn screaming. You know what I mean? Like, and that's like I can't relate to that, so I wasn't sure if that's just the disconnect like that I was feeling is because I've never been in that kind of situation. You know what I mean? Like that's not something that applies to me, so I just assumed that's where the disconnect was. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like that's where motivation stopped making sense to me because I've never experienced
It's
that level of
right, right. And she sees him on the ground. Like, she has like a flash of him on the ground. And it's like, I have to go back and finish it.
right.
But
So
yeah.
but what I think you don't get is like I don't know that in the theater if you edit it in the theater, I don't think you get quite the depth of you wouldn't feel quite the depth to which it affects Ellie,
Right.
which is that it affects her a lot, but like still there's not Ellie doesn't have a picture perfect scenario
Right.
yet at the theater. You know what I mean? And then we get the picture perfect scenario. She has a kid with Dina. They're in a farm and doing exactly what they wanted, and then it's still bad enough that it like eats at her. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like she cannot forget about it. She cannot sleep. All of that.
Yeah.
And and then Tommy comes, and the thing is, like, Tommy comes to just be like, he's kind of an asshole. He's a straight up asshole, which again seems out of character, but also if I had my fucking leg blown off and an arrow through my fucking eye, maybe I would no longer be cool.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. And I saw my brother killed in front of me, or like I knew that my brother had been killed by people, and like I knew that they were out there. Right.
right, and not only are they out there, you know exactly who they are, and you know exactly where they're at.
Yeah.
So don't have that. So again, it felt like a disconnect, but I always just kind of assumed that's me at that point. But like, but the reason she goes out there has nothing to do with him. It's again that Joel is eating at her, and she feels, like she's missing
Right.
something. And I think what you get at the end is you get the ultimate like, I can just fucking murder this person. Like Ellie's like, I can just kill this person. It's not even going to be a problem. You know what I mean? Like this person from Ellie, the other thing is like you play as Abby for the 3 days, right? And you grow to realize that Abby's not a monster. Abby's dad was killed by Joel, which we all knew. Like, it's funny because they're not Fireflies; they're WLF or whatever the fuck they are.
Mm-hmm.
But like, just because of that's the main thing that happened in the first game, you start off the second game, you're like, they're not Fireflies. I don't know how it is, but it has something to do with the hospital. You know what I mean? Like, it's never said, but you know, like it has to be the hospital. So like you get this, Abby seems like a monster, but you learn she's not, and then you start to understand that character, and then that character, even in the 3 day span, goes through a redemption arc. You know what I mean? Which is that like she is a piece of shit, and then she's like the kids, the two Seraphites scars. Save her life, and so she goes out of her way to go back for them. Right. So like you get a little redemption. So you start to feel for her. But from Ellie's standpoint, when she gets to the beach, she's got to think this is what she deserved. You know what I mean? Like, from Ellie's standpoint, you see her up on the fucking pole, tortured, almost dead, and Ellie's got to think, like, this is essentially what you did to Joel. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you deserve every bit of this, and then I'm still gonna fucking kill you
Yeah.
because you still killed him. So
Right.
from her view, like it's like the perfect cathartic scenario. And then as she's fucking drowning Abby, you get like, she realizes like it's not gonna do anything.
Yeah.
Like as she's killing Abby, she catches another vision of Joel, and it's like, I'm still gonna have these problems even if I kill her right now.
Right.
You know what I mean? And as much as like people say like that's obvious, you know what I mean? Like we also live in a society where people talk about fucking therapy all the time, and I don't really know if that's happening in a post-apocalyptic fucking scenario. You know what I mean? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if people are really getting introspective when you're just constantly fighting to fucking stay alive and put food on the table. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like that a realization that may legitimately take that far away, take that much to gain. And I think you don't get that if you ended at the theater.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
But I feel like you can chop it up and make it fit somehow. Like that's where the skill comes in. Like you could easily have those flashbacks to Joel, on the ground dying, like at the end of day 1, she gets back to the theater and falls asleep and she has the flash, right? You could squeeze it in more. Or if like, she's in a dark room under one of those fucking buildings that she's crawling through, trying to escape from infected, and she like falls down a hatch and like hears a bang, and it's like she like gets the flash then. So I feel like they could have weaved it in more throughout Ellie's 3 days in Seattle.
I do think that's true, but I still don't think. I think because you don't have like I said, the picture perfect scenario at the end of the theater.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're not together. They're not with a kid. They don't have a barn house. Like they don't have a perfect life
Right.
together.
Yeah.
I think what you gain by going back out is that it's such a deep trauma for her that she's willing to throw all of that away.
Yeah, and she does.
And she has to.
Yeah.
That's the other thing is it's not that she's willing, it's that she has to.
Yeah.
Is that even with those things she can't sleep, she's like constantly having episodes like in her head. She's like, this is the only way to make it stop. Like this is the only way I can do what's right. You know what I mean? And like Dina's like, I'm gonna leave you, and she's like, if you got to do what you got to do, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you? I need to do this so I can fucking sleep. I can be a functioning human being. You know what I mean?
Right.
So like you don't get that level of like seeing the depths. I think if you ended at the theater, you know what I mean?
No, yeah. That makes sense.
I do think they should have pieced it more through to be a consistent theme. That's the problem because you kind of almost lose sight of it. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
she's just going back to kill Abby, and then at the end in the aquarium, Tommy comes in and he's like, "Hey, we're just gonna head back to Jackson," and she goes, "Okay, we'll head back with Jesse." I'm like, "Wait, what?" I mean, okay. I mean, I'm glad because that means that she's not, she just killed a pregnant lady and this guy, and you sort of know that there's more there because of the way that the game frames it.
right.
But I do think that's so. Like, I feel like all of Ellie's character arc happens in that epilogue section, right?
Yeah.
Because I feel like the whole her thing is like she comes to realize that she has to forgive and she has to let it go. But I feel like I don't know. I feel like not like the Ellie that is at the start of Seattle Day 1 and is at the end of Day 3 is the exact same one that shows up in Santa Barbara, which means that Day 1 through Day 3 she didn't change, nothing happened. Compare that to Abby, who changes a lot between Day 1 and Day 3, right?
Right.
So then I get to Santa Barbara, which is like sort of pretty much the epilogue, and I'm like, it's the same person that she was in Day 1. Like, really? Like, she's not like conflicted about killing Abby. It's the same goal with the same motivations, and I'm just like, I mean, okay, like I like it, and I didn't want to play it because I was like, I don't want to kill Abby. It was just frustrating because it's like she clearly didn't kill Dina for a reason. She didn't kill you for a reason, and you're still coming after her, and you don't expect that her people are going to come after you in the same way that you're coming after, right? Like Ellie should be smarter than to see that the cycle is going on.
So the one thing I will say about that is that like I don't think Ellie really has to worry about Abby's people because she's kind of at that point killed most of her people.
Right. But I'm sure I'm sure that's what they thought about the doctor, right? Like they killed the doctor, like, oh, the doctor, and then 5 years later, or whatever, or no, 4 or 5 years later, a woman comes into town and kills Joel.
Well, see, that's again that also I think is a little different, just because like the whole thing is that they don't even think it's the doctor. They're just like, I don't know, Joel fucking made 1,000 fucking enemies of
And
everyone.
that's
So
yeah, and that's another thing. It's like, why would like? I mean, I know we wouldn't have had a game without it, but like, you must know that you kill all these people, and even before you met me, like he did some shit before, right? He was a smuggler. Like even before then, like he had his enemies. So to go on Seattle 3-day run and then come back and do it again in Santa Barbara, it's like yeah, you love Joel, but like
that's another one where it's like for me, it's like I don't. It is a disconnect for me, but again, like my dad's not dead. You know what I mean? Like,
right, yeah.
it's like I don't know what level of fucking insane I'd go. You know what I mean? Again, like we said with Tommy, where it's like I know exactly where this person is. I know exactly, like I have everything in arm's reach. It's one thing like when it's an assassination, it's like an unnamed fucking. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It's like a specter, but it's like when it's tangible.
Mm.
I don't know. You know what I mean? So it's like for her, like she saw the person do it and then knows exactly where that person's at. You know what I mean? I don't know what level of like disconnect is because I haven't been in that kind of scenario. You know what I mean? And it could I say all that, but it legitimately could just be bad. You know what I mean? It could be bad writing. It could be, and like that's something that I'm attributing to like just having never been in that scenario.
Yeah.
So
No,
like,
yeah. And
either way.
I definitely like that there's like they took chances here, right? Compared to something that's a little bit easier, like The Last of Us 1, which I think is pretty. I don't want to say simple, but it's pretty straightforward until the very end, until Joel lies to her. I think the whole thing is, you have to kill these people to save humanity to get this girl from point A to point B. Like that's pretty much it.
Right.
But in this one, it's a lot murkier and a lot more muddy, and sometimes, like I said, sometimes it's like, well, why didn't they do this over here, this over there? But at least you're talking about it. At least it is a little bit
Right.
more. It's murkier. It's a little bit, it's harder to pick a side or to say this is a good one because it's point A or point B, or like the story is simple and solid.
Yeah. So like I definitely I agree with you though that it did feel long, and I feel like there would have been a better way to do it, but like me personally, I don't know what that way would have been.
Right.
Like I wouldn't have thought about like constantly giving her more flashbacks, because that's something like the whole thing is about getting vengeance for Joel. Like that's the whole thing. But like I don't think it's hammered down enough. I think like I think for the amount of time you're having to play, like it does start to feel a little like going through the motions. You know what I mean? Like it's just like I walk in this room, I need to get to the other side because I got a place I'm going, so I need to kill these people, or just like avoid these people. You know what I mean? Like it's a little just like mechanics. You know what I mean? Like you just feel like it's less of a story and more of playing the game, which is fine because the game is good, but it would have been better if there was more like story pushing in those scenarios. You know what I mean? Like every so many people you killed, like you just had like a fucking click of like a quick snippet of like Joel getting his fucking face bashed in.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know, something like that. Just to like. I wonder if you'd feel more in touch with Ellie if that's what you were seeing. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like if you like it would ping you enough. And then that's another thing, like, is that too much then? You know what I mean? That they keep showing it to you? Like, is it too much for people? But, like, I do think you start to feel disconnected because you're just going through the motions. And I think if they brought that back to the forefront more often, you would feel maybe more attached to that character and why they're doing what they're doing.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree. I can see that, yeah. But,
So,
yeah, to like, last point, just to wrap it up, what did you think about the halfway point, like, twist, like the not twist, but like the
switching viewpoints.
The switch, yeah. What did you think about that?
I liked it. I was like, I don't understand why anyone's mad at it. That's one of the things that like people. So the story was leaked before the game came out, and like people went up in arms about it and said it was bad before they even played it, and like I just feel like. I feel like this is something you have to play before you're allowed to have an opinion on it. You know what I mean? Because as much as like everyone would be like, oh, of course there's fucking you're gonna feel like of course they're gonna give you this 3 little periods so you feel better about Abby and then bring you back. Like people are like that's a pretty like standard idea. You know what I mean? Like you give the villain something, but like I think that's where the medium shines is you have to play through it. So you reluctantly play as Abby because you don't have any interest in fucking living through this bitch's story. You know what I mean? Like she killed Joel, she's fucking up. You know what I mean? Like right before you start to play her, she fucking kills Jesse. You know what I mean? And you think she's gonna kill Tommy.
Yes.
So it's just like you're like I don't want to fucking I don't give a shit what you have to say. You know what I mean?
I mean that's
But
how I was. Yeah.
because it forces you to play through it and it forces you to go through what she went through because that's what that medium is. You do like by the end of it, like as much as it is like very obvious what they're trying to do, you're still like, yeah, no, I get it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I'm with her. I get why she's done everything she's done and like how shitty it is that things have turned out this way. Yeah. And so like I think that's one of the things that like if you're bitching about that because you read the leaks and you think it's dumb, I do think you need to play it because I think that's something the medium gives you that works better than it does in writing.
Oh, yeah, I agree because I felt the same way. Like when it switches, well, because like you build up all your guns and all your ammo and shit and all the extra stuff with Ellie, and then the switch happens and you have to start all over with Abby.
Right.
And I did think it was weird because, you are playing with Ellie and you get everything so early on. Like you get all of the extra knickknacks and explosives and all that shit. Like around by hour 12 or 13, you have everything, or it appears that you have everything. And so I was like, what the hell? Like, this is full. Like, I didn't fill this up with, what's his name until the end, or Joel in the first game until the end of it. And like, what is this? And then it switches, of course, and then you have to start all over. So that was...
And the thing is like when it switches, I remember thinking like, okay, I'm going to go through this short little sequence, like little like, I'm going to hit the bullet points, and then I'm going to be back. Yeah, I'm going to be back at Ellie. And then like, I remember picking up like the little fucking scrap or whatever it's called, like the currency you use to like upgrade stuff.
Yep.
And like I picked that up and I upgraded something and it had like 4 upgrades.
Uh-huh.
And
like,
so did the other weapon and I was like, that's a lot.
Like, wait, are we stuck? Yeah, I was like,
and I was like, that's a lot. And then like, but then like, so the next few times I picked up the currency, it was like a higher amount than I was used to with Ellie. And I was like, oh, okay. They're just giving me the options, but I'm going to speed through it super fast. You know what I mean?
Right, same.
But then I got like the 4th training manual for like the upgrade tree. And then there was still a 5th one I hadn't gotten yet. And I was like, holy shit. Like I'm playing a whole fucking second game inside this thing. Like this is not just going to be a quick bullet points.
Yeah.
I think it feels a little bloated. But like I think that's just like a casualty of war. Like I think that's just kind of like it feels bloated, but I think you kind of need that to get the full weight of everything else. You know what I mean? Like because it does like in the beginnings of Abby's stages, like holy shit, I gotta play all this.
Mm-hmm.
But then because you are with her for so long and there's the redemption arc and you play through it, I think it's important that you spend that time with her to bring the rest of the game to a close.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's another thing where I'm like, I think it could be done better, but I don't know what the answer is. And I think it worked for what their end goal was.
I mean, you saying that, I literally feel like I think my last statement on the game would be, this game is The Dark Knight Rises, but actually really good. In that it takes everything that the previous ones did and just adds so much extra stuff. Like maybe sometimes the shit that doesn't stick, but the shit that does stick, it sticks really good. And similar to what you said, like if you ask me, how do you fix The Dark Knight Rises and make it as good as The Dark Knight or Batman Begins, I would say, I honestly don't know. I don't know because I don't know how to fix it because it's so big and it's so massive and it's so much and it swings for the fences so hard. And The Dark Knight Rises, I think, strikes out more than it hits home runs in terms of its ideas, whereas this one I think is hit most hits, and then where it misses, it's just like little things. But that's sort of in my mind how I'm going to think about it. Like
that's a really good analogy, I think. Like I had never thought of it that way, but that's a good one.
Like a complex sequel to a simple first or second game that I think I'll be thinking about just because of sort of where it hit and where it didn't.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean that's a perfect analogy. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of it tries to do a lot, and some of it doesn't nail, and so you start to feel iffy about the things it doesn't nail. But I think once you actually play it, and then step back, I think you'll see that it nailed more than it missed, and I think overall it's worth it.
Definitely.
So if I had to rate it, The Last of Us the first one for me. All right, so this is a weird thing. I think I'm gonna say that I think The Last of Us 2 might be better than the first one. But I think I still score the first one higher because the first one was such a like fresh like step for games in general.
Mm-hmm.
If that makes sense. Like I think I give more extra credit to the first one than I do the second one because the second one was very ambitious, but the first one was ambitious with nothing to fall back on. You know what I mean? Like it was like if you making the first one and what you're trying to do doesn't work, that game's just bad. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like if you're trying the stuff that you're trying and some of it doesn't work, you still have everything you built on the first game to fall back on. You know what I mean? So I think I would say the first one's a 10 out of 10. I think I'd say this one's a 9 out of 10, but that's not to say that like it's less worth playing. You know what I mean? I think it's just as worth playing. I just think I have to give more credit to the first one for being such a new experience with no prior example of it.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, I can see that. I know what you mean. I don't think I've played enough games to sort of give it a rating like that, just because I don't know, like I don't have a bench line, right? Like
Right.
I
You just
like,
hear like it's groundbreaking, and you're like,
yeah,
sure, that's what people say about everything that's good.
right. Yeah, I haven't played enough games, but I definitely say that this is. I mean, these two are my favorite, and the thing is, yeah, I mean, yes, I completely agree with everything you said. Like they're worth it, and sort of what I was saying before. Like when it hits, and it has more misses than the first one, but I think the swings it takes in this one is, it makes it worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I give it a 9 out of 10. Ever says it's just as worth playing as the first one, which I also agree with. So
Yep.
definitely go play it if you haven't.
Yep.
I don't know why I'm saying this because if you haven't played it, you just listen through us.
I was gonna say, I was like, yeah,
ruin this fucking game, bro. So whatever, dude. Just it's a
we
good
hope you
game.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, we hope you enjoyed it. There we
Email
go.
us your thoughts, like anything that you think maybe they could have done better, or if you're one of those people who hated it somehow, email us, tell us why, and if you loved it, email us, text us, tweet at us, tell us why.
Yeah, definitely. The last thing I want to say, it's super short, is that like I was so worried I was gonna have to kill Abby. Like that whole ending sequence is like, don't make me do it. Like,
Yeah,
don't
that
make me
was
do
the
it.
same.
And she starts fucking drowning. I'm like, God damn it! Like, and then she pulls up the plus. I was like, oh
Yeah.
my God.
Yeah, there was one part where you hit like square to
Yeah.
like take the knife or like stab her, and I didn't push it, and Abby killed me, and of course I'm like, oh fuck, I don't want to do it. Okay.
Yeah, it's no good. But all right, guys, we'll catch y'all next week.
All right, see you guys.